The Atlanta Braves are coming off their worst season in years, allowing the Phillies to win the National League East and not winning a single playoff game for the first time since 2017. It was a season many fans are happy to just get over with, but yet this offseason has been more than a little disappointing. Between losing fan favorites like Max Fried and Travis d'Arnaud and several other key losses, the Braves have gotten much worse on paper over the winter. And then you add that frustration to the Mets keeping their core while adding Juan Soto, and the Dodgers signing literally every single player anyone would ever want. And fan morale is at a low point that we haven't seen while the Braves have had this core. So the big question that everybody's asking is, are the Braves still World Series contenders? Absolutely they are. The Braves have had two of the most polar opposite seasons in Major League history in the last 2 years. 2024 just happened to be one of the most injury-riddled seasons in Major League history. While 2023 isn't necessarily a fair year to use to predict future success, neither is 2024, where the opening day lineup averaged 2.39 wins above replacement less per position than their 2023 counterparts. Every position player besides Matt Olson and Marcell Ozuna missed some time due to injury. And let's take a look at what an average year might be for some of these players since they have joined the Atlanta Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr. will be back in 2025. While no one should expect him to return to MVP form right away, Acuna at 80% is better than 90% of the league offensively. In Ronald's season returning from injury, he managed to hit 15 home runs and steal 29 bases. By Ronnie's own admission, he feels much better this time around. While I expect him to not attempt to steal near as many bases this season, I would be shocked if Acuna completely cuts that skill out of his game. I just expect him to be much more selective, which should allow him to focus much more on his bat and his power numbers as much as possible. Matt Olson has consistently been an odd year merchant. During even numbered years, he's still a good player, but during odd number campaigns, since his breakout in 2019 with the Oakland A's, Olson averages 43 bombs, not a 933 OPS, and over 6 baseball reference WAR. Judging off of WAR alone, odd year Olson is the same caliber of hitter as the average year of Hank Aaron, which holy smokes, Hank Aaron was so good. We need to talk about that more. Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, and Ozzie Albies were all banged up all year long, with all three suffering nagging injuries early in the season before Riley and Ozzie missed extended time during the last few months of last year's campaign. All three of these guys have averaged all-star caliber seasons during their careers, so it's safe to expect at least two, if not all three of them, to return to all-star form in 2025. Speaking of due for a bounce back, Orlando Arcia was enemy number one for most of Braves country last season. But considering how much was put on his shoulders offensively, that really shouldn't have been much of a surprise. Arcia has always been a plus defender at a quality position, but has been league average in the batter's box for a shortstop. The difference in years where Arcia is considered to be a positive player versus one where he's received negatively by the fan base is just how much pressure is put on him. So think back a few years ago where he stepped in for Ozzie Albies in the playoffs, or his first year starting in 2023 at shortstop position. And there was not very much pressure on him because he was just the 9 hole in this stacked lineup. Versus last year, he hit out of the 5 hole about 3 dozen times, and he hit out of even the 2 hole a few times as well. So no matter how you slice it, Arcia was always going to be a letdown in those specific positions. Compared to Arcia hitting ninth, how he was in 2023, or how he will be this year, he'll be a league average 9 hole hitter while bringing above average defense at a premium position in shortstop, as well as above average pop for the shortstop position. Like, even though Arcia had a bad year last year at the plate, he still hit 17 homers. When he will be seeing better pitches because no one wants to walk him to get to Acuna or Olson or Profar, then he'll probably hit 10 more out of the park at Truist. Another player that Braves fans loved to hate on last year was Jared Kelenic. Jared Kelenic was really streaky during 2024, but he has since confirmed that he is playing injured during the entire second half of the season. And honestly, it definitely showed in his swing mechanics and his speed around the bases. Similar to Arcia, Kelenic would have done much better if he was allowed to hit towards the bottom of the lineup instead of the top. Part of the reason that Alex Anthopoulos traded for him was because the former top prospect would not be expected to carry the load for Atlanta the same way the Mariners expected him to. I would not be shocked if Jared had a full breakout year in 2025 if he can stay on the field. And it's going to be difficult for him to stay on the field, but he'll get at least a month to prove why he should be starting every single day when Acuna is not back to being ready to play at Truist Park. All of this optimism is without even mentioning new additions like Jurickson Profar or top prospect Drake Baldwin, who is due to make his debut for Atlanta this year. Both of those guys should turn heads in 2025, as well as a dark horse MVP candidate in Michael Harris II, who might just get his own video depending on how this one's received. The Braves also boasted the best pitching staff in 2024, and while they lose Max Fried and Charlie Morton and a few bullpen guys, I've heard that from some of my sources inside Braves camp that there's an unknown mustachioed pitcher that might just return in 2025. Maybe you've heard of him.